Hi, this is Jesse. I'm the saxophone specialist at MyNet Music out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I'm here with Melvin Quinones, the owner and developer of the Growling Saxophone. Hi, Melvin.
How's it going, Jesse? Thank you for having me here, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So we're here today to talk about the two lines of professional saxophones that Melvin has developed. And you're no stranger to saxophone playing, unlike a lot of business owners. You started out in the Army Band.
Correct. So I've been playing for a little over 30 years. I've played in a lot of local Christian bands where I lived in Puerto Rico. And then I joined the 248th Army Band where I played for 9 years as well. As I was going to college also for a music major and majored in saxophone as well.
You also have experience in engineering and quality control. Can you talk a little bit about how that's informed the development of this saxophone?
Yeah, so I studied quality control engineering. I've always been passionate about engineering. And when I decided to study music, I was still not sure. And I decided to take 2 years off and study quality control. At the moment, I wasn't very sure how it would help me. I was just passionate about it. And I remember one day I went to this jam session and Ray Charles, sax player, was there. And I just got so mad, like, I just want to play, forget about engineering. So I got back to study music again. I never thought that I would use this quality control engineering knowledge again. But eventually, 20 years after, I'm able to connect the dots and combine my knowledge of engineering, into a production of a good saxophone.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You also ran a social network for saxophone players, and you discovered kind of what saxophone players are looking for. Well, really all musicians, but saxophone players especially are looking for in a sax.
Correct. So in 2008, I've already had plenty of engineering experience, and I decided to create my own social network as well. It was called mysaxtalk.com. And we quickly grew, and we had saxophone players join from over 120 countries. Many of them in countries like Brazil, Europe, all Latin America, and here, US, obviously. And what this allowed me was to actually know what players want. We had a forum that was open. We also did polls about what finishes or what features players like, but also understand what they can afford. And from there, eventually 8 or 9 years later, I shut down the social network for some reasons, and I decided to put some effort into starting this company, and definitely using in consideration every aspect that I learned from actual players around the world.
Right, and we can definitely see that influence from all the players. And you said there were 3 basic things that we're looking for here, and that's...
Yeah, so my understanding that I got from the players is, the instrument has to sound great. So it's important how it sounds, how it feels, and how it looks, right? And I thought that if I covered those 3 main areas, we would get a good instrument. When we talk about how it sounds, the projection, big sound. Some people maybe wanted something a little darker or brighter. So we also wanted to present saxophone players with options, depending on what they preferred. Then we consider, how it feels. A lot of players tend to love the sound of some of the older horns, vintage instruments, but they're not very ergonomic. And that's always been a problem for them,
They don't fit in the hands very well.
Exactly, right. It's very uncomfortable. And they were handmade, so the precision wasn't always there. There wasn't consistency with the ergonomics. So that was something very important, And then obviously we want to make a horn that looks great, that when you're in front of a stadium or a show, that it pops out, you want to get people's attention.
So let's talk about that. So because of that, you developed 2 different lines of professional saxophone. You have the Origin series and the Uprise series. So why 2 different lines, I guess. Who are these saxophones for?
Okay, so these 2 lines, and some people have asked me, why would you have 2 professional lines? And the answer is not everybody needs the same saxophone. You know, some features, like for example, roll tone holes. And let's not get very technical, but just to mention the feature, some players love a horn that has roll tone holes, but some others don't. You know, some people take in consideration that may take a little extra work for maintenance or stuff like that. But also different options in terms of sound, you know, and in terms of different features. Both have excellent sound and excellent intonation and ergonomics, but they have a different sound. The Origin series, for example, both have the same finishes, but the Origin series has a copper neck, you know, so actually makes the sound a little brighter. That option is not available on the Uprise series, but the Uprise series does have a lot of a set of other features.
So let's talk about these because you know, these saxophones, they're beautiful and they feel great in your hands, and they've got everything that a pro sax we've come to expect. You know, there's of course the high F sharp key, the high quality Italian leather pads. You've got the blue steel high tensile strength springs. You've got ribbed construction for sound. Let's start with your Origin series. You know, kind of there's some things on there that set it apart, like where you talk about the G sharp spring.
Yeah, so traditionally you will have to spend a lot of money with other brands to get a feature like that on a horn, and we basically added this piece of metal sheet under the G sharp that prevents it pretty much from sticking.
So like, if, you know, any saxophone player knows, you pick up a saxophone, you go to play a G sharp, and that key is stuck shut.
And that's a problem that every sax player has had for many, many years. You know, a lot of companies have tried to find a solution that has not worked well, and we tried many sizes until we actually came up with a very good metal sheet that we've had no issues with, and we found consistency as well. With this feature. Once we added it to the G sharp key, we also added it to the lower C sharp, which also tends to have the same problem. And it is a problem that every sax player has had to deal with, you know, until now.
Yeah, certainly. And also, it's a spring, so it does pull the key open, but I can also do alternate fingerings if I want and close it down
absolutely,
again.
yes.
So that doesn't hinder any of my other fingering. So that's great. Your body is based on some of that. You mentioned that vintage sound that people are looking for, but we have some modern advantages.
Yeah, so both of the series, Origin and Uprise, have different bodies, and they're both designed after vintage horns, very popular ones. But obviously, we've done a lot of work in the ergonomics on the key work. Obviously, we added different features like the G sharps and stuff like that. But particularly the tone holes, the Upright series has a row tone holes. A lot of people like that feature, you know, and that's pretty much our higher end instrument. We made sure that we added row tone holes. I feel that it makes it much easier to play the instrument, easier blowing. So all the Uprise series saxophones have that feature. On the other series, it has the same quality sound. It's a very high-end instrument as well. But on this one, we did vertically extruded tone holes. And it gives you a different feel, a different sound, which is actually very colorful, which I love as well. Even though they're differently priced and different bores, you know, any professional player can play on any of them. You know, as a matter of which sound do you prefer.
So we have a lot of options to customize your own sound.
Absolutely.
Right.
We also added double arms, you know, for the lower keys. Some people like, you know, to feel them more steady.
So we've talked about some of the playability. You know, their updated horns, the adjustability of the palm keys, which is wonderful. So as a younger player, I can pick up one of these pro horns, and it'll grow with me, you know, because I can adjust it to my own hands, and that's awesome. But they also look great. Can you talk a little bit about the finishes and how you developed those and where they came from?
Yeah, so I tend to be very creative. A lot of people ask me where you got that idea from the tiger as well. All of our professional instruments also have engraved a tiger playing the saxophone. Obviously, it's the growling sax, right? So it was a very cool idea. That's how we started doing that on every saxophone. And then we came up with some creative finishes. You know, we got, for example, the Red Lava series. I'm proud to say that Chuck Sarag is owner of one of them as well, and has been very happy with it. And we're doing some very cool finishes. We've had some unlacquered with satin silver keys, for example. The Red Lava, like I mentioned, is black with red keys. And if you're looking for a horn that pops out on the show, on the stage, you gotta look at it.
But still plays and sounds well.
Yeah,
as well.
it's designed with very high precision, you know, and it's a very, very high quality instrument. You know, and a lot of people have said, wait a minute, this red, is that plastic or whatever? You know, depending on the illumination. But you'll see when you try it out.
All right, well, thank you very much, Melvin. It's been great talking to you. And if you're interested in trying any of these saxophones out, get down to MyNet Music here in Fort Wayne. We've got a number in stock all the time, set up by our professionals in the store.